All right, everyone. Europe's hated Article 13 is a step closer to actually being law in the European Union and actually fucking up the internet more or less worldwide. But you probably haven't heard much about it unless you're literally, if you're like alt tech, alt media or something on, or part of those movements, you probably know about this. Otherwise, it seems an astonishingly large proportion of people have no idea that the internet as they know it might be about to die, to the point where a lot of websites really won't be able to function. It's like, yeah, try running a site like 4chan with Article 13. They would have to essentially say to Europe, we're a US firm and we're not going to deal with this. So they would just start blocking Europeans from accessing stuff. What Article 13 essentially does, the original intent, the good side of it, the intent is to make sure that content creators can actually make money off the content they create in a visual format. So, you've made something, the idea is to get sites to automatically filter stuff so that if someone else is attempting to steal your material, they can be sued more easily or they can be kicked off the site, whatever may apply. Now, someone like Matt Fury, for example, remember Pepe's creator. Oh, he would have loved if this sort of system had been in place. He would have made millions of dollars off of Pepe being shitposted across the internet. But, here's the but. There are two problems. The first problem is that it will make a hindrance to things going viral anyway. So, memes basically as a medium will be, half-assed. People make knockoffs. They'll be doing like hand-drawn replications of stuff that would be legal, I guess, and wouldn't get caught by the filters. The second problem is that it stifles free speech. Absolutely. Think of political cartoonistry and stuff. How are you going to get these sites to determine whether the image is fair use? It's going to have to be an AI program that's actually weeding through them. And a human's not going to be involved. YouTube had to hire 10,000 additional staff just to keep up with the flow of videos. Can you think images being posted rapid fire on people's maybe Blogspot, on any website that gets incorporated results in Google for Google image search and stuff? That would be a nightmare. They'd need 1 million people just to go through it all. An inordinate proportion of the world's population would have to be hired just to filter what the rest of the population is fucking making. It's not economically feasible. I'm surprised. Mozilla has stepped up and said, screw this is a terrible idea. Where's the outrage from the other tech firms that are going to have to pay inordinate sums for these licenses? I'll tell you what, they want their smaller competitors to get hit with lawsuits. They can actually take it, and then once their smaller competitors are gone, then they'll just start ignoring the EU altogether. It's a monopolistic, corporatistic move. What Europeans need to do, though, is start getting angry. Like, why am I not seeing more outrage about this? You people, your soccer team or football team, whatever you want to call it, depending on the nation, loses and you go and you riot, or they win and you go and riot, but you're more drunk, and cars get burned and people get beaten and rocks get thrown around and stuff. Some government official did some minor thing. All of a sudden, 100,000 people show up in front of the Reichstag or something. Meanwhile, something that could destroy all of human communication and render the internet more or less a boring, useless hive of corporate bullshit. Yawn, we'll go back to sleep, we don't care. Now, this doesn't directly affect, for instance, a US user. We have to be less concerned, but we should still be looking forward and saying, might this not affect US firms? They then have to choose whether they're going to bow before Europe or whether someone like me is no longer capable of having Europeans ably watch their material. It means that US users will outcompete European content creators because we don't have to deal with the bullshit on any site where they've decided, well, we're not going to bother doing business in Europe. But at the same time, then we're deprived of half the audience that we have. Several European states, an inordinate proportion of my audience comes from. My audience is like 40%, I think, from the United States. Number 2 is the UK. And Germany's high on that list, too. And I think Canada and Australia sort of round it out. I'm glad that areas of Latin America and Asia are starting to rise up, or Eastern Europe, where they're going to probably not give a crap about Article 13. But here's the thing. Here's what people need to do. First, they need to start contacting these fucking European bureaucrats, these stooges that run the European Union. Secondly, you need to start supporting Eurosceptic parties. You need to put more pressure by far on the EU, because this is probably a protective move for their jobs too. You know, most of those memes getting posted, let's face it, they're Eurosceptic. You know, people who like the European Union aren't compelled to meme. They feel just fine and enslaved by their post-national authority, I guess. So you need to get angry and protest. That means in real life, not just online. Contacting tech firms to try to get them to join on, to try to get them to get their users. You know, Google puts a, hey, sign this petition on Google's main page. It's going to get, you know, 10 million signatures real fucking quick, considering the number of people that are going to be seeing that. You get Mozilla, Firefox gets involved. The alt tech firms get involved. Minds should definitely have something on there. It should be on Gab. It should be on BitChute. All of the alt tech firms. By the way, there's BitChute news that I believe will be forthcoming. I got a message yesterday. I won't tell you what it's about because I don't know the timeline involved. It's a good one, by the way. But then, people need to work on something else, which is we need a user-friendly web-based program. You know, think of a site, you put an image in, you press a button, it scrambles it and gives you a code. You give that scrambled image and code to someone else, or you post it online, there you go. The algorithm that's looking at that image isn't going to see it as anything but a bunch of bullshit, and it's not going to catch it and, you know, basically have the Gestapo showing up outside your door. Something like that could be very useful. You know, the European Union would probably try to block such programs eventually. Okay, well then release an app, a standalone program, you know, you share that out and people can do it themselves. It has to be very user-friendly though, like people who aren't as tech literate, they're not like, you know, on the internet constantly, people who are maybe more normal ultimately than maybe we are. We need something so that they can, you know, potentially use it, because I think there are programs like that. But I'm pretty sure none of them are for the lower tech crowd. They, you know, they use the internet too, and they need memes. We're gonna have to do a meme airdrop over Europe. We're gonna have to liberate Europe yet again. Along with, oddly enough, it might be the UK, because, you know, they're leaving the EU, so they're not part of this. So I guess that second largest audience that I have is ironclad. I guess they probably won't sign on to something that crazy. No, Theresa May would make something even crazier. She would just ban memes outright. Now, doesn't this look a little bit... I remember years ago when Putin was like, well, we're banning memes that are critical of Putin or the Russian government. I'm like, isn't this a little bit similar, only more expansive? And you're sitting there complaining. It's sort of like when they complain about the Nazis are coming, and so they try to harass people, and they're to, like, punch people unprovoked and censor things. It's like, okay, so you want to be like Nazis in order to prevent Nazis from taking over. You're afraid of Russian censorship or Reds under the bed, so you want to become basically like the USSR. That makes perfect sense. It's self-explanatory. How can you not see the reason behind it, everyone? No, we need to make sure that we fight back against it. Not, you know, like Medicare made a video and he's like basically just mocking people. I will say one thing though. It is kind of funny that there seems to be more outrage over a fucking sports game than there is over the potential death of the entire internet. Along with virtually all independent sites, they're not going to be able to pay the meme tax, the URL posting theme. You will have to pay a tax in order to post URLs to media articles. So that means if YouTube begins to implement that, archive.is isn't going to save you. I'd have to strip down all my videos. I'd have to strip everything down and go through and just blanket add a generic description with URLs to sites that honestly won't care. I'll have to remove all the media links. It'll be like, you know, no more link in the description, I guess, at that point, because I'm not going to pay the Europeans some money for that. Fuck you. I'm not paying you shit. You know, these are U.S. firms anyway. Europe doesn't have any good websites for the most part. They're all in the U.S. 4chan, it's a U.S. site. YouTube is based in the U.S. Twitter is in the U.S. I think Gab, BitChute, I think, is in the UK, so that's an exception. I think Gab and Minds are both U.S. firms. What the fuck? Who cares? Patreon's a U.S. firm. Everything's a U.S. firm. No, the U.S. will have to liberate the internet. It's going to be quite interesting. I thought about wearing, like, you know, getting World War II surplus, like, combat gear. Go with the helmet, just sitting there rambling all day, you know, in celebration of the stupidity that is the European Union. Why aren't there more Eurosceptic movements trying to break free of this slavery, this tyranny? It's so obviously tyrannical and authoritarian in every way. Why aren't you trying to get out of it? The Eurosceptics need to take to the streets and march. You need to make more memes, and you need to make it clear that this won't actually happen. You will refuse to bow before this type of tyranny. Now, people here aren't going to look. We'll still have our U.S. sites. A lot of them, I guarantee, won't do it. They're not going to pay billions and billions of dollars. They'll ignore you. They'll end up ignoring these European legalists. That's about all. Peace out.